LoveLore Library. Chapter 1462. It was Tianya who did not let wrongdoings go unpunished. 3. Jia Axayan seemed to have lost his soul. He had bullied Tianya's cat, and at most, Tianya would have made life a little more difficult for him. His crime did not warrant death. However, if he had almost murdered Tianya's relative, then with Tianya's means, he would never let him off. When Tianya removed his foot from Jia Axayan suddenly climbed back up and hugged Tianya's thigh. "General, I really didn't do it on purpose. It was Feng Tianyu's daughter who is arrogant and domineering, bullying the weak. She had bullied Mu Huan, and I just could not bear to watch. General Tianya has always been reasonable. You can't treat me like this just because of that." Tianya was not an unreasonable man. Although he would protect his own people, that was under the circumstance where his people were not in the wrong. Now, he wanted to keep his life and could only push all the responsibility to Feng Tianyu's daughter. After all, Feng Tianyu was the son Tianya had brought up. Tianya would definitely be aware of his own son's character. However, Tianya was already in Wushang City more than 20 years ago. So, he definitely had not met his granddaughter before. If he said this, Tianya would not possibly be able to judge his wrongdoings. Jia Axayan felt proud of his wit as the corner of his lips subconsciously lifted into a slight smile. However, before his smile could widen, Tianya had once again raised his leg and ruthlessly sent him flying. "Presumptuous. Is my granddaughter someone you can talk about badly behind her back?" Jia Axayan's smile immediately froze at the corner of his lips. He spat out a mouthful of blood as his body landed in a heap on the ground. "General Tianya," he gritted his teeth. "I am telling the truth. You have always been a reasonable person. You can't cover up for her just because she is your granddaughter." Tianya raised his brows. There was a hint of dominance in his brow as well as an unforgettable arrogance. "Although I have never met my granddaughter, I am very confident of myself. She is definitely not someone who would bully the weak. Even if she did bully someone, so what? That shows the person deserved to be bullied by her. You dare to attack my people. Then, you have to pay the price." The housekeeper who was standing nearby was left speechless. Besides that cat, it was the first time he had seen the general protect the wrong without caring about who was in the right or wrong. "Old housekeeper, go and pass the order in a bit. Cripple his cultivation and throw him back to Tsangyu mainland. I want those old men in the reclusive world who just can't seem to die to know that my granddaughter has my protection. Those who bully her should clean their necks and wait for my return." Tianya finished speaking and then casually turned around and left. He did not even look at Jia Axayan who had crumbled to the ground behind him. Jia Axayan raised his head to look at Tianya's departing figure, his eyes slowly showing despair. Me for extra chapters. Outside the underground prison, Tianya halted. His red robe was very dazzling, showy, and domineering. "Housekeeper, did you hear it?" The housekeeper was stunned. "What?" "My son and daughter-in-law have given birth to a granddaughter for me. It is a beautiful, petite, cute, and obedient granddaughter, not a grandson." The housekeeper was speechless. "It's a pity, I don't have a way to see my pretty and obedient granddaughter. I also don't know if any of those old things have realized my identity and gone to bully my little granddaughter during the years I've been away." Tianya squinted, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Furthermore, hearing Jia Xin's words, "My pretty little granddaughter has married. How could she so simply get herself married? If she inherited her father's good judgment, that is still okay. What if she inherited her mother's judgment? What would I do?" The old housekeeper had not initially understood Tianya's meaning. He had only managed to understand after he thought about it a few times. His old face could not help but twitch a couple of times. "General, how much do you disdain your son?" Chapter 1463. Don't be calculative toward a wild child. What are you still standing there for? Tianya gave him a kick. "Settle this rascal immediately. If you don't settle him, I will feed you to the pigs first." The old housekeeper was caught off guard and was sent lunging forward with that kick. He even almost fell to the ground. It was a good thing that he had managed to steady himself in time. He looked at Tianya sadly. However, without waiting for another kick from Tianya, he immediately left. He disappeared outside the underground prison gate without looking back. The air was still, and the silence was deafening. Tianya looked in the direction the old housekeeper had disappeared to as unreadable emotions were written on his face. It has already been more than 20 years, after a while, he finally sighed. In his eyes, the sky before him seemed to have traveled back to the scenes that happened more than 20 years ago. 20 years was sufficient for a country to go through huge changes. Back then, he had rushed into the reclusive world without any time to think for the sake of the citizens of Luyun Kingdom. After that, he was trapped in land of no return and had no way to return. If one were to ask if he regretted everything, perhaps, if he was given a choice again, he would have done the same. He was the emperor of Luyun Kingdom, the father of all the citizens. He had his responsibilities and duties. Since he was given this position, he definitely needed to live up to the citizens' trust. All these years, perhaps Feng Tianyu was the only one he felt guilty about. A bitter smile hung on the corner of Tianya's lips. Back then, after I left, perhaps Tianyu, this little guy, had scolded me behind my back. Maybe even up till now, he is still scolding me for being irresponsible. He could face the people, the citizens, but he had let down his child. Under those circumstances, he had abandoned Feng Tianyu and left. He was unsure how the young and inexperienced Feng Tianyu had dealt with the court full of scholars and cultivators back then. For sure, he had suffered quite a bit. He was very clear about those old men's characters, and the only thing he felt was fortunate was that Feng Tianyu had the support of the Nalan family. Jia Axian, Tianshan Manor, the Mu family's Mu Huan. Tianya squinted, and his eyes turned cold. However, seeing the situation now, it seems like after I left, Zhangyu mainland was not too peaceful. No matter who it is that had bullied my people, I will make sure that this reclusive world will never have a day of peace. Me for extra chapters. Under the hot sun, an old man dressed in red stood proud and overbearing. However, no matter how hot the sun was, it could not disperse the chilling air surrounding his body. In the Spirit Beast mountain range, Feng Lianqing carefully used the sword in his hands to cut down the branches blocking the road. His gaze was serious, and his expression somber. Perhaps Lianyi also knew that Feng Lianqing was currently feeling a little anxious, so it was a rare situation whereby she did not say a word but just quietly followed behind him. Another night has passed again. The more time passed, the more anxious Feng Lianqing felt. However, he could not show it on his face to avoid other people feeling anxious. Feng Riching looked at the back of Feng Lianqing and gently sighed as she used telepathy to ask Fu Qin, help me take a look and see if there is anyone nearby. Mother, why do we need to care about this and be a busybody? Fu Chen's voice was a little lazy, obviously not willing to care more. I want to leave the Spirit Beast mountain range, but I have to follow them. Oh. Fu Chen reluctantly agreed. Soon, all was silent inside the medium. Chapter 1464. Don't be calculative toward a wild child too. After a while, the little guy's soft voice rang out again. Go straight ahead for 500 meters, then turn right for 1,000 meters. There is someone over there, shouting for help. I am not sure whether this is the person these people are looking for. Feng Ruqing cocked her brow. Adopting this cheap son really did help her save some effort. Nan Xian, let's go. She pulled Nan Xian's hand and walked past Feng Lianqing, moving forward. Feng Lianqing was stunned. He saw that Feng Ruqing was walking so fast and immediately shouted after her. Maiden Feng, where are you going? Feng Ruqing did not reply to Feng Lianqing. After all, even if she said that she knew where the person they were looking for was, these people would not believe her. Furthermore, she could not confirm if the person Fu Qin had mentioned was the person they were searching for. Big Brother Feng, Leonie frowned as her tone was full of dissatisfaction. What is wrong with this woman? Doesn't she know that the Spirit Beast mountain range is very dangerous? She still dares to run around simply. She is obviously getting us into more trouble. We are already in a rush to look for the little prince, and now she is even dragging us down. Feng Lianqing glanced at Leonie indifferently. Were these not the two people Leonie had asked to stay? However, Feng Lianqing did not have much time to say much now. His gaze was cold as he spoke. Let's go. It's not like we know where the young prince is anyway. We have been searching for him blindly, and going anywhere is the same. It will indeed be a little dangerous if the two of them leave the group. After he finished speaking, Feng Lianqing went in the direction Feng Ruqing had left and chased after her without even sparing a glance at Leonie. Leonie frowned hard. If it were not for Nan Xian, she would not have asked this useless, troublemaking woman to stay. However, now was not the time where she could afford to be distracted by her thoughts. She gritted her teeth and followed after them. Feng Ruqing headed in the direction as per Fu Chen's instructions, and shortly after, she heard a heart-wrenching cry for help. Nearby, a huge spirit beast was looking down at the little fatty who had crumbled to the ground. Its mouth was salivating, and there was a bad stench, making one feel nauseous. The little fatty was so scared that he peed his pants. His face was wet with tears. He was pale, and his eyes were full of despair. Me for extra chapters. Help. Someone, please save me. He regretted it. Regretted that he had run into the Spirit Beast mountain range to prove himself, and in the end, he was about to lose his life soon. Snot and tears were flowing freely from the little fatty's eyes and nose. Both his legs were trembling, and his urine was streaming down his pants. It was terribly smelly and pungent. The huge red tiger before him had stopped. Its gaze was ferocious. With a howl, it leaped over to bite the little fatty. Coincidentally, Feng Lianqing, who followed after Feng Ruqing, arrived and saw that the tiger was about to bite the little fatty. His expression changed as he immediately threw the sword in his hand at the tiger. With a hiss, it stabbed into the eye of the red tiger. Howl! The red tiger let out a sharp cry as blood flowed from its eye. Under the intense pain, it no longer bothered about the little fatty who was before it but immediately turned around and ran into the depths of the mountain range. Behind, Feng Ruqing calmly looked in the direction in which the red tiger ran off to. Not knowing why, she kept getting the feeling that this spirit beast scent was a little abnormal. Sob! The little fatty felt relieved and immediately let out a wail. Perhaps he was so happy that he was crying, but snot and tears were flowing even faster, messing up his entire face. Feng Lianqing also did not seem to disdain the little fatty as he went to him and half-squatted in front of him. Your Highness, sorry I am late. Chapter 1465. Don't be calculative toward a wild child 3, who asked you to come and save me only now. The little fatty was sobbing badly but still did not forget to glare ruthlessly at Feng Lianqing. If you had arrived earlier, would I have needed to be scared to this point? This is all your fault. Feng Lianqing frowned slightly. He seemed to have long gotten used to the little prince's attitude and did not say much as he slowly stood up and said monotonously, "Your Highness, let's go back." This time, the little fatty was obedient as he stood up. He was covered in dirt, looking just like a fat beggar. Big Brother Fong. Lieni, with the rest of the people, had finally caught up from behind after much difficulty. With a glance, she immediately noticed the little prince who was following behind Feng Lianqing. She was momentarily stunned and subconsciously turned to look at Feng Ruqing. Coincidence? This was definitely a coincidence. It was definitely not possible that this woman had brought them over on purpose. "You," the little fatty pointed at Lieni. "You, servant girl from General Manor, come and carry me. I am so frightened I'm unable to move." Liania's face darkened as she said, angrily, "What did you say?" "I am a servant girl from General Manor." The little fatty proudly raised his head. "If you aren't the servant girl from General Manor, then what are you? Could it be that you are his disciple?" There was a hint of anger on Liania's face. Her identity in General Manor could be said to be the most awkward. She was not Tian Ya's disciple, and neither was she his relative. However, she was definitely not just some servant girl. Back then, she was adopted together with Lianqing by Tian Ya. However, Tian Ya had accepted Lianqing as his disciple but did not take her in as his disciple. Although that was that, the people in General Manor treated her as their young lady. Only this death-deserving fatty would say she was a servant. "Lieni." Feng Lianqing frowned. "The prince has been found. That is enough. No need to say anything more. Let's return." But, Lieni bit her lip. She really could not understand. Why did Feng Lianqing tolerate this little prince? Even the emperor was respectful toward the general. What more a little fatso? They had General Manor's backing. What was there to be afraid of? After all, he is the prince, me for extra chapters. Feng Lianqing said seriously, however. He paused and continued, "Your Highness, Lieni is someone from General Manor, after all, and is not a servant. Asking her to piggyback you is not possible. I don't care. I insist that this slave carries me." The little prince started to wail. "If you don't carry me, when I return, I will inform my imperial father. You're just a servant, and you actually dare to rebel against my command." Lieni was so angry that her body was trembling. She really wished to give this little fatty 2 slaps. The little fatty turned his attention to Feng Ruqing. "Are you the new servant from General Manor? Take off your clothes to let me wipe my face." Feng Ruqing was speechless. She could instantly feel the cold aura of the man beside her. She immediately pulled his hand and smiled. "Nan Xian, let's not be calculative toward a child." Nan Xian hesitated, but he did tone down after hearing her words. However, there was a murderous intent in his eyes as he looked at the little fatty. How could it be right to be calculative with a little child? Feng Ruqing remained smiling. Feng Lianqing also secretly sighed in relief as he looked at Lieni somewhat accusingly. "See, this is the attitude other people have. Every time, you get agitated once provoked by the little one. The other person is also a woman, and a pregnant woman at that. She, too, knows that one should not be too calculative toward children." Feng Ruqing touched her wrist as she walked over to the little fatty with a smile. Chapter 1466, Don't be calculative toward a wild child. 4. Did you want me to take off my clothes so you can wipe your face? The little fatty with snot all over his face tipped his chin up proudly. "That's right. And you too. How dare servants like you address yourselves as me in front of the royal prince? You should be calling yourselves humble servants." "Oh," Feng Ruqing answered calmly. All of a sudden, a vine abruptly appeared around the little fatty's legs, and before the boy could react, he was dangling from the vine in midair. Slap! The vine whipped the little fatties, but each whip causing the little boy to scream out in pain at the top of his lungs. Feng Lianqing was speechless. He looked at the little fatty who was being dangled and whipped, then turned to look at Feng Ruqing, who was still smiling. Suddenly, he felt like taking back his words. Tolerance. Ha! If a person who seeks revenge for trivial matters like this is considered to have tolerance, there wouldn't be a single petty person left in this world. On the other hand, the little fatty kept struggling as he yelled out in rage, "How dare a lowly servant like you hit me?" Slap. The vine whipped him again, making the boy swallow his words as he cried out in pain. "I will never be calculative toward a child." The young girl smiled. "If a wild child misbehaves, just whip him. Why should we be calculative toward him?" Everyone was dumbstruck. Feng Lianqing and the group finally regained their senses and wanted to save the little prince. However, Nan Xian suddenly appeared in front of them with a cold expression. "Qing'er doesn't need help with teaching someone a lesson." Feng Lianqing was speechless. "What do you mean by not needing help to teach someone a lesson? Just how did you assume that we were going to help Feng Ruqing?" But Feng Lianqing's gaze shifted briefly. This wild child has always been so arrogant. It wouldn't hurt for him to be taught a little lesson, right? Why don't I just pretend that I can't beat this man? When His Highness asks about it, I'm sure Master will be on my side. After all, this isn't my fault, and I'm not the one hitting him. It was the wild child who provoked others first. If I can't beat this man, what can I do to help? So, when Feng Lianqing got closer to Nan Xian lifted his hand only to see Feng Lianqing sticking out his chest and colliding into his hand. Nan Xian was speechless. Me for extra chapters. Bam! Feng Lianqing was thrown back and doubled over on the ground, looking battered following a loud banging sound. He supported himself, trying to get up, only to fall back on the ground, going limp. He could no longer get up. Everyone at the general's manor exchanged glances. Even young Master Lianqing had fallen. So, should they continue to attack? They looked at the little prince being whipped in midair after a brief silence before bracing themselves and rushed over. Only this time, none of them had even gotten close to Nan Xian before they fell to the ground, howling. Nan Xian was speechless. He had not even done anything this time. At that moment, the little fatty's hysterical cries sounded melodious under the clear sky. That was right. To Feng Ruqing, it was indeed melodious. Each time the boy wanted to lash out, Feng Ruqing would whip him, making him swallow his words. Only his cries could be heard. Perhaps it was enough whipping, or maybe because the little prince had stopped lashing out that Feng Ruqing decided to toss him onto the ground. A smile was still plastered on her gorgeous face. Her eyebrows curved as she lowered her gaze to look at the little prince. "You. Who did you ask to have their clothes taken off so you could wipe your face again?" The little prince was stunned. After a while, he carefully answered, "Myself." Chapter 1467, The Little Prince Gives an Eye Right. Feng Ruqing nodded in satisfaction. "Am I a servant?" "And no." The little prince shook his head nervously. "Auntie is not a servant." This beautiful but ferocious lady was a pregnant woman. There should not be a problem if he called her auntie, right? Feng Ruqing's expression immediately darkened. "What did you just call me?" The little prince was stunned as he stared blankly at Feng Ruqing, not understanding why she was angry again. For some reason, when he met Feng Ruqing's eyes, the little prince felt his butt burn in pain again. He panicked and blurted out, "Beautiful sister." Feng Ruqing was quiet. The little prince said carefully, "Goddess sister." Beautiful and gentle sister. Beautiful, kind, and gentle sister. Seeing Feng-Riching still quiet, the little prince almost cried out in fright. He had uttered every word he knew from the books. Was there still a problem? Okay. Slowly, Feng-Riching opened her mouth. A smile played on her lips as she said, "See, I told you that you can't be calculative toward a child. We should teach them gently, and they will eventually listen." Feng-Lianqing, who was still on the ground playing dead, was dumbstruck. Was that considered gentle education? You've obviously beaten him until he obeyed. Nan Xian, let's go. Feng-Riching shrugged and walked smilingly over to Nan Xian. When she passed by Lianyi, she did not even spare the girl a glance. The little prince slowly let out a sigh of relief. But just as he did, Feng-Riching had coincidentally turned around, startling him. He straightened his body with his legs still trembling. Beautiful, gentle, and kind goddess sister, is there something else? Nothing. Feng-Riching retracted her gaze with her eyes filled with smiles. By then, Feng-Lianqing had gotten up. He held a hand to his chest as he staggered over to the little prince. Your Highness, are you okay? The little prince glared furiously at Feng-Lianqing. Why didn't you save me just now? Feng-Lianqing wore a bitter smile with his eyes filled with grief. Your Highness, I was too powerless. That man was too strong. I couldn't compete with him and protect your Highness. Once we get back, I will report this to my master and have him punish me. The little prince pursed his lips. Are your men powerless as well? I clearly saw that the man did not even touch them, yet they fell me for extra chapters. Feng-Lianqing closed his eyes to hide the pain in his gaze. That's how powerful he is. He's so strong that he doesn't even need to move to kill someone without leaving a trace. Your Highness, we were just too powerless that you had to end up getting hurt. The suspicions were clear in the little prince's eyes. Really? Really? I swear in the name of my master that what I speak is the truth. If there is any falsehood, then, my master will trip over when he walks. Master, I'm sorry. For the sake of general manner, I have no other choice. After hearing this, the little prince believed him. He looked fearfully at Nan Xian. When Nan Xian glanced at him from the corner of his eyes, the little prince shuddered, and he was frightened once again, to the point of peeing in his pants. Feng-Riching looked at the little prince, then back at Nan Xian. There was confusion in her eyes. The state preceptor is so good-looking, so why does he seem so afraid of you? Moreover, it was she who had given the little prince a beating just now. The state preceptor was a kind man. He would never do something so twisted. Nan Xian pondered for a bit. He might be feeling inferior. Feng-Riching gave it a little thought before nodding. True. With the state preceptor looking so beautiful, he would definitely feel inferior in front of you. Chapter 1468, The Little Prince Gives in to Chinger, let's go. Nan Xian pulled Feng-Riching into his embrace with just one arm as a faint smile appeared on his cold face. Lianyi stared fixedly at Nan Xian's arm around Feng-Riching. The initial admiration in her eyes had now converted into resolution. Someday, she would definitely make it so that she became the person in his arms instead. Hey! The little prince finally regained his senses. He tilted his chin up and looked haughtily at Lianyi. You! Come over and give me a piggyback. As he spoke, he stole a glance at Feng-Riching. When he saw how Feng-Riching had ignored him, his courage returned as his voice sounded insufferably arrogant. I'm talking to you, you little servant, Lianyi. I'm hurt, and I can't walk. Give me a piggyback and take your clothes off so I can wipe my snot. Lianyi's expression turned ugly. She glared at the little prince. If you keep being this arrogant, I'll hit you. Perhaps it was because of phone reaching acting as a precedent, Lieni could now muster the courage as she raised an arm to threaten the little prince. Lieni. Feng Lianking's eyes darkened. You have to remember your status. Big brother Feng, it was clearly him. Lieni was filled with grievance. She did not understand. When Feng Ruqing had taken action earlier, not only did Big Brother Feng allow her to do it, he had even feigned defeat to give her a chance. So, why did Big Brother Feng change his demeanor when it came to her? That's enough. Feng Lianqing barked. He turned to a guard standing behind him and said, "Take off your clothes for him and carry His Highness. We're going back to Wushang City." "Yes, young master," the guard answered respectfully. At Feng Manor. After knowing that his son was doing well and had even gained a beautiful and obedient granddaughter, Tianya felt like he was floating as he walked. But as he floated, he was not looking where he was going and had stepped on a fruit skin, causing him to slip and fall forward with a loud bang. "Who is it?" Tianya got up furiously. His hair was a mess, and he sounded angry. "Who's cleaning the yard today? Why isn't it clean?" The whole yard fell silent. Me for extra chapters. After seeing Tianya's embarrassing moment, everyone wanted to laugh, but they had to stifle it. No one dared to make a sound. "Old housekeeper!" Tianya roared. Once the old housekeeper heard this, he stopped watching from behind and scampered out to stand in front of Tianya. "General, what are your orders?" Tianya pointed furiously at the fruit skin on the ground. "Whoever is cleaning the yard today, make them eat this." At any rate, he was the general of Wushang City. He was even the retired emperor of Luyun Kingdom. To have embarrassed himself in front of so many people, how could he just let it go? "Yes, General. I will have it done right away." The old housekeeper wiped the cold sweat on his forehead as he answered sheepishly. Tianya's expression finally mellowed down. With a hand behind his back, he stared calmly ahead, like nothing had just happened. He still looked charismatic and domineering, like a great ruler of the world with dignified aura. The old housekeeper wiped the sweat on his forehead, watching fearfully as Tianya left. At the Spirit Beast Mountain. The little fatty was now in clean clothes, and his face was no longer dirty. Instead, he looked fair and tender. However, his bodice excessive fat was causing the guard, who was giving him a piggyback, to gasp for air. Chapter 1469. The Little Prince gives in 3. Lieni was following behind Feng Lianqing in silence. However, her eyes were subconsciously looking at Nan Xian, who was walking in front of her, with an odd glint in her eyes. Yet, no one noticed the peculiar look on her expression, so no one noticed that she had induced forbidden thoughts. Big Brother Feng. Lieni was quiet for a moment before asking, "When can we leave the Spirit Beast Mountain?" This Spirit Beast Mountain was too vast. It had taken them a few days to find the little prince, so if they wanted to leave, it would probably require even more effort. Feng Lianking's eyes darkened slightly. Although he refused to admit it, he had no choice but to acknowledge that they were lost. "Yes, lost. I've made markings on the way here, but those marks have now disappeared, so I can't find the way out." The size of the Spirit Beast Mountain was like a few cities combined. In the city, one would not lose their way. However, all of the roads in the Spirit Beast Mountain looked the same, so if they were not familiar with the place, it would be very hard to leave. True enough, Feng Lianqing had made markings when they first came. But now those markings have disappeared, he had no idea how to get back. Once she knew that they would not leave the Spirit Beast Mountain so soon, Lieni felt delight surge within her. That was because she knew that once they left, she would have to part with Nan Xian. She could only take advantage of this time in the Spirit Beast Mountain to get along with him. She had to use the span of these short few days to make him fall for her. That way, she would have a chance. That's okay, Big Brother Fong. You don't have to be anxious. We can find our way slowly. Fong Lianqing looked at Liany suspiciously. She had previously been unwilling to come looking for the little prince, but now she was not in a hurry to leave. However, his mind was occupied with trying to find a way out, so he did not think much of it and retracted his gaze. Don't worry. I will lead you guys out soon. The little prince lifted his head up from the guard's back, sounding arrogant as he said, Fong Lianqing, I order you to find the way out within a year, or else. Before he could finish talking, he saw Fong Ruqing turn back suddenly to look at him. The boy was so frightened he immediately swallowed his words and said fearfully, or else, you'll cry me for extra chapters. Fong Lianqing was speechless. The little prince crying. Now that was something to look forward to. He suddenly hoped to delay their exit. At least, until after the little prince had cried. What did you come here for? Fong Ruqing looked calmly at the little prince without any expression on her face. If someone else had asked him this question, the little prince would have ignored them. But it was Fong Ruqing who had asked instead. He looked fearfully at her and answered honestly, my second royal brother said I was useless and trash. I wanted to catch a spirit beast back to prove that I'm not trash. I've even brought beast-repelling incense but for some reason it became ineffective, so I ran into that red tiger. Fong Lianqing felt ashamed. Little prince, you've entered the deepest part of the spirit beast mountain and the spirit beasts there are terribly strong. That's why the beast-repelling incense doesn't work on them. After hearing Fong Lianqing's words, Fong Ruqing was quiet for a moment. The place where we saved this guy was the deepest part of the spirit beast mountain? Yes. Oh. Then, what about the place where we met? Fong Ruqing continued to ask. That was still the outer region. Okay. Then, if we keep going further in that way, will there be a way out of the spirit beast mountain? Fong Ruqing's tone was calm. There was no hint of any turbulence in her emotions. Chapter 1470, Someone has to take responsibility. Fong Lianqing laughed. How is that possible? The deeper region is dangerous. Even if there's a way in, we can't get too far. So, Fong Ruqing paused. Why are we going further in instead? Why aren't we going back where we came from? Fong Lianqing was stunned. He stared blankly at Fong Ruqing. After that, he turned around to look at the direction where they came from. So, it was not that someone had removed his markings, but he had gone the wrong way instead. Fong Lianqing felt his body stiffen a little. He turned to look at the guards of general manner. Isn't this where we came from? The guards exchanged glances. Young Master Lianqing, after you've saved the young prince, you started walking forward without turning back. Fong Lianqing's expression immediately changed. Why didn't any of you say so earlier? The guards behind him felt aggrieved with sorrow clear in their eyes. Young master, you've said before that we only have to follow you and listen to your orders. If you walk this way, we won't dare to walk the opposite way or remind you. Fong Lianqing was speechless. He turned stiffly to look at Liany. And why didn't you remind me? Liany regained her senses and chewed her lip. I didn't notice. Her gaze was fully focused on Nan Xian, so how could she have any attention left to pay to trivial matters like this? At that moment, Fong Lianqing felt like burying himself in a hole. This was just too embarrassing. His handsome face was all red as he said sheepishly, truth be told, I usually never make such a dumb mistake. It must be because I fell and hit my head earlier. Oh, Fong Ruqing calmly replied, obviously not buying it. Fong Lianqing was flustered, but he dared not vent his frustrations on Fong Ruqing, so he slapped the guard beside him on the back of his head. This slap made the guard stumble forward, and the little prince on his back was tossed away. The chubby body rolled down like a ball and finally stopped after hitting a tree. Me for extra chapters. Silence. The spirit beast mountain fell into sudden silence. The guard was dumbstruck. His face was now ghastly pale as he fell to his knees with a loud thud. Young prince, please forgive me, please forgive me. I didn't do it on purpose. The little prince held the back of his head, feeling dizzy, and stood up. His steps were wobbly, and he almost fell again. Just then, a leopard rushed over from beside, picked the little prince's chubby body up in its mouth, and dashed away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Feng Lianqing was stunned. Everything happened so quickly. It was so sudden that he did not have a chance to react. Big brother Feng. Lianya's face was as pale as a sheet, looking flustered. What do we do? The little prince has been taken away by a leopard. Feng Lianqing's expression looked a little sickly as well. But he did not have time to spout nonsense like Lianyi as he rushed in the direction where the little prince had disappeared to. In an instant, he, too, was gone. Miss Lianyi, what do we do now? The guards did not possess such speed and could never catch up to them, so they looked at Lianyi with panic in their eyes. Especially the guard who had tossed the little prince away just now, he could now barely stand. His eyes were filled with fear. If anything happened to the little prince, His Highness would never forgive him. It was over. His life was completely over. Chapter 1471. Someone has to take responsibility. Lianya's expression was dark. She stared coldly at Feng Ruqing with a smirk on her face. I think everyone knows how the little prince went missing. When we get back, I will report this to His Highness honestly. Someone has to take responsibility for this matter. If Feng Ruqing had not reminded Big Brother Feng that he had gone the wrong way, Big Brother Feng would never have hit someone out of anger. If it had not been for that slap, the little prince would not have rolled away. If the little prince had not rolled away, he would not have been taken away by that leopard. In summary, this responsibility should be entirely shouldered by Feng Ruqing. Let's go. Lianyi sauntered over to Nan Xian and deliberately softened her voice. It's dangerous here, and I have to report this to His Highness. Will you come with me? She did not want to part with this man. But now that Big Brother Feng was gone, there would surely be other trouble if they stayed in the deep region of the forest. The little prince probably would not make it, so there was no meaning for them to stay. It was better to go back and report this to the emperor so that he can make his decisions. But she still wanted to give Nan Xian one last chance. If Nan Xian went with her, she would try to speak up for him before the emperor so that Feng Ruqing would not drag him down with her. Nan Xian briefly lifted his hand. A chill appeared in his eyes mixed with murderous intent. Feng Ruqing noticed Nan Xian's actions. She held his hand gently and whispered, Tang Yin. Tang Yin. Tang Yin again. Nan Xian's expression turned cold. Back then, Qing'er had chosen to go with these people because of Tang Yin, which had resulted in them not being able to spend any time alone. Now, she was stopping him from doing anything because of this Tang Yin again. Did this Tang Yin matter so much to her? Nan Xian felt conflicted, but he recalled his murderous intent nonetheless. With a wave of his hand, a large force crashed into Lianya's chest, throwing her a few meters back. Me for extra chapters. I didn't kill her. She talks too much, so I don't want to travel with her. Feng Ruqing was speechless. It seemed like she really did talk too much. Let's just not travel with them then. Well, go and find Feng Lianqing. Feng Ruqing squinted. Wanting to know Lianya's identity did not mean they had to probe her directly. Feng Lianqing, seemed easier to get along with. Most importantly, the man was dumb, so they could get more information. Yeah. Nan Xian finally looked more at ease. He remained gentle as the clear moon and calm as a light breeze. Feng Lianqing was a man. There would be no problems when traveling with him. Ahem. Ahem. Not too far away, Lianyi got up from the ground, coughing briefly. She looked ahead with a pale face as she watched the white robes disappear slowly, unable to retract her gaze for the longest time. Miss Lianyi. The general manners guard rushed over to Lianyi and asked worriedly, Miss, are you okay? I'm okay, Lianyi closed her eyes gently. She felt a dull pain in her heart. The first time. This was the first time she had fallen for a man. But this was the outcome she received. And don't let General know about what happened just now. Lianyi opened her eyes. I wanted to help him out of kindness, but he has treated me this way instead. If General knew about this, he would definitely get angry. I don't want him to face any danger. Even if he hated her or was annoyed by her, she did not want this man harmed in any way. Lianyi wore a bitter smile as she looked in the direction where Nan Xian had disappeared to for the last time. After that, she retracted her gaze and turned to leave. Chapter 1472. Someone has to take responsibility 3. However, the moment she turned, a vine slithered out from below her feet and with a loud slapping sound, the vine whipped her face, leaving a bloody scar on her fair and tender skin. Hiss! Lianyi gasped in pain. She lifted a hand to wipe her face only to realize that her hand was covered in blood. There was fury in her eyes. Feng Ruqing. The guards exchanged glances. Miss Lianyi, she had already left. It might not be her. Lianyi's body was trembling, the resentment clear in her eyes. Who else could it be but her? This vine clearly belongs to her. I've never deliberately gone against her or done anything to her, but she keeps trying to harm me. I will remember this. Even if General asks about this, she will be the first to be blamed. The general had taught them to never bully others because of their authority and never to be arrogant. She had done as he told her to. The general had also taught them that revenge must be taken and that they should not let anyone bully them. She had always remembered this. Now that the other party had attacked her first, it would not be considered bullying if she retaliated. She would just be taking revenge for herself. But she was really gone. The guard had just spoken, but when he saw Lianyi's dark expression, he stopped talking. Lianyi suddenly chuckled. But I won't have to take any action anymore. This woman has caused the little prince's fall, so His Highness and the Empress definitely won't let her off. Even if the little prince was natural-born trash, the Empress still loved him dearly. If she knew that someone had harmed the little prince, that person would face a tragic ending. Let's go. Lianyi's eyes were dark as she turned to look at the guards behind her. One more thing, you guys should know what you can or cannot say. The little prince being taken away by a leopard was Feng Ruqing's fault. If any of you reported incorrectly, Big Brother Feng might get dragged down instead. Big Brother has been kind to all of you. If you harmed him that way, your conscience would haunt you forever. The guards looked down, staying silent. Me for extra chapters. That incident earlier was not Miss Feng's fault. But, if they spoke the truth, not only the Emperor and the Empress, even the General might be furious. If the General tried to speak up for young Master Lianqing might not make it out unscathed. We understand, Miss Lianyi. It was true that young Master Lianqing treated them well, so how could they let him be punished? If young Master Lianqing ended up being chased out of General Manor because of this, with his pride, it would be agonizing for him. Lianyi finally retracted her gaze and started moving forward indifferently. A leopard was holding onto a little fat boy in its mouth in the deeper region of the Spirit Beast Mountain as it dashed away. Woo! Big brother leopard, master leopard, I only have fats and am not delicious. Please let me go. Whoa! The little fatty was wailing his heart out. His face that was cleaned earlier was now dirty again as his snot danced in the air. The leopard ignored the little fatty as it sprinted. Just then, a dark green silhouette fell from the sky and stood before them, blocking the leopard's way. When the little prince saw the dark green silhouette, he cried harder. Feng Lianqing, save me quickly. Whoa! This leopard is trying to eat me. Save me quickly. I promise that I won't ever come to the Spirit Beast Mountain again. Even if he was trash, it was still better than being swallowed alive by a spirit beast. After this miserable encounter, he would never want to come here again. Chapter 1473, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. I let him go. Feng Lianqing's expression was dark as he pointed his long sword at the leopard. Ha! The leopard let out a cold snort. His voice sounded scornful and contemptuous. Each one of you humans is detestable. You enjoy killing and have murdered a lot of spirit beasts in our tribe. Why are you allowed to murder our kind, but we can't kill you, humans, instead? This little fatty will be dessert for my brothers. I won't return him to you. When the little fatty heard the spirit beast speaking human language, he panicked in fright. The second half of the leopard's words made the little boy soil himself a little. It was disgusting. I'm not delicious. I'm really not delicious. I only have fats. Why didn't you target them instead of me? There were obviously a lot more people back there, but why did the leopard choose him? Shut up. If you keep crying, I'll swallow you now. The leopard warned ferociously. Sure enough, after saying this, the little fatty stopped crying. He kept quiet and never made another sound. Feng Lianqing looked at the leopard and said calmly, I admit that many people enjoy killing, but not everyone does. We are reasonable humans. If you don't touch my people, I won't harm you. My tribe, my whole tribe, was murdered. The leopard was trembling. I won't believe the sweet words of a human. You, humans, have bewitched too many spirit beasts of my kind and even had them assist you in killing and hunting. If I didn't attack you, you would have attacked me. I've survived thus far because I wanted to take revenge on humans. To him, every human was the same. None of them were decent. He had survived thus far because he wanted to kill as many as he could. Even if it were not many, he would never continue to live in hiding. Feng Lianqing's gaze darkened. If you won't let him go, don't blame me for not showing mercy. He could not communicate with an unintelligent spirit beast, so he could only force it to let the little boy go. The instant Feng Lianqing lifted his long sword, a voice called out from behind him, making his sword stop midair. Which do you think is faster? Your sword? Or his teeth? Feng Lianqing was stunned. He turned to see a young girl dressed in red robes, slowly walking over. Me for extra chapters. Although it was inappropriate to call a pregnant woman a young girl, when faced with this girl who did not look to be over 20 years old, he was reluctant to call her a woman. The man standing beside this young girl remained fair and calm as if no matter what happened, his emotions would not stir. He was tranquil as a gentle breeze. If I help you. Feng Lianqing smiled, will you tell me about Lianyi? Feng Lianqing was stunned. He stared at Feng Lianqing, lost. Lianyi? Why do you want to know about her? Feng Lianqing rubbed her chin and smiled brightly. I'm quite interested in her. Feng Lianqing was speechless. He looked at Feng Lianqing, then looked sympathetically at Nan Xian. He could clearly see the dark expression on Nan Xian's face. Ahem. Ahem. Feng Lianqing coughed briefly. Young Master Nan Xian, you don't have to worry about anything. Lianyi is normal. Nan Xian was speechless. He glanced faintly at Feng Lianqing. Is my Qing abnormal? Too abnormal. But of course, he dared not say it out loud. After all, Feng Lianqing was still hoping that these two would help him save the prince. Chapter 1474. Leading the spirit beasts to attack the city too. There was no benefit in offending this petty man. Shao Qing slithered out of Nan Xian's sleeve and shook his groggy head, looking dazed. Where are we now? Are we still in the Spirit Beast Mountain? At Shao Qing's appearance, the leopard became even more enraged. As expected, none of you are any decent. Bewitching spirit beasts to sell their souls to you, you're just the same as everyone else. Shao Qing got angry. What do you mean by selling souls? I, Master Shao Qing, cherish my life. Who can make me sell my soul? Feng Lianqing was speechless. So this snake, too, can speak. Humph. The leopard snorted. Since all of you want to save him so badly, I'll eat this fatty now and return his bones to you. The little fatty panicked, and his pee trailed down along his pants. His body was still in the leopard's mouth, so he dared not struggle, fearing that he might be cut open by the leopard's sharp teeth. Master Leopard, please calm down. Don't eat me. I haven't bathed in a few days, so I'm dirty and smelly. You have to stay calm and don't panic. At least wait until after I've bathed before you eat me. The leopard was speechless. He wanted to swallow this annoying fatty now. The little fatty was crying with snot all over his face. Beautiful goddess sister, help me quickly. I don't want to die yet. If you save me, I'll become your servant and slave. Feng Lianqing glanced at the little fatty in disdain. She let go of Nan Xian's hand and moved slowly over to the leopard. The leopard narrowed its eyes. If you take one more step, I'll eat this fatty. Sure. Feng Lianqing smiled brightly. After all, this fatty has offended me before. If you want to eat him, go ahead. Do you want me to give you some spices? Hell taste better roasted. The little fatty's face was covered with tears. Haven't I only just mistook you as a servant from General Manor? Do you have to scare me like this? Suspicion flashed in the leopard's eyes. As he watched Feng Lianqing come closer, a deadly glint sparked in his eyes. What are you doing now, me for extra chapters? Feng Lianqing was smiling. I lack a spirit beast. I think you'll be suitable. The leopard was speechless. This woman was so straightforward with her words. Was she afraid that he would not understand her? I will never yield to humans. Really? There were smiles in Feng Lianqing's eyes. You've only dared to take the little fatty away and run without stopping because you're badly hurt. You're afraid of being found out and can't fight back, am I right? The leopard's huge body shuddered slightly before regaining his composure. What of it? With the little fatty in my grasp, you lot wouldn't dare to move rashly. Yeah. Whether the little fatty lives or not, it has nothing to do with me. I just think you look decent. You're fierce and strong. You'll be a great help. Look at how you're just scraping by in this spirit beast forest. You even have to eat things raw now. You probably can't even find any spirit herbs to cultivate yourself. The leopard was stunned. For some reason, after hearing Feng Lianqing's words, he felt like crying. He wanted to eat roast meat. He wanted to eat spirit herbs. He also wanted to be loved by humans. Previously, humans and spirit beasts had had a great relationship. However, ever since that group of humans appeared, he had been living his life escaping. His tribe was mostly gone, with only a few of them left. He would not even dare appear when he saw humans, and would only dare to bully little trash like this fatty. Chapter 1475, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 3. However, tiny trash like this was scarce around here. How many of the people who come to the Spirit Beast Mountain would be this weak? He could only live his days in hiding, fearing that one day he would be caught by humans to become roast leopard meat. It's okay. Enriching had a smile on her face as she continued to get closer to the leopard. You found me. The leopard was stunned. When he lifted his head, he noticed that Enriching had gotten close to him. With caution in his eyes, he said fiercely, "Don't come closer. If you do, I'll swallow him." This time, Enriching stopped. She looked at the leopard and said, "If you wanted to eat him, you would have done so already. The way I see it, you must have a few of your kind left who are also starving, that's why you didn't eat him on the spot. You want to share him with your kind." The little fatty's tears and snot covered his entire face. "I beg you, stop saying something so scary." Being swallowed alive by a leopard was already scary enough, but she said the leopard wanted to share him. Would he even make it out alive? Enriching ignored the little fatty's expression and continued, "But if you come with me, you won't have to eat raw food or starve anymore. You guys will only have to take care of my garden." The leopard snorted. "No human is decent. I won't believe you." "Oh." Enriching pouted. The spirit beast had a low IQ, so he was fixed on his thoughts. Saying any more to him was useless. "Forget it then. I had wanted to heal your wounds, but since you're unwilling, let's go, Nansien." "Forget him." Enriching never spared the leopard another glance as she turned to leave. "Wait." The leopard called out with his eyes shut tight. Enriching paused. "Is there something else? I don't like raw meat. You don't have to share that fatty in your mouth with me." The leopard was speechless. "Who said I wanted to share the fatty with you? Me for extra chapters. You. Can you really heal my wounds?" The leopard paused before asking. "Yeah. Recovery of strength will depend on yourself, but I can heal your wounds. At least it wouldn't hurt anymore, but you don't seem like you need it. Nansien, let's go." "He doesn't need me." "Don't," the leopard became anxious. "If you can really heal my wounds, I can let this fatty go." Enriching raised an eyebrow and turned to look at the leopard. "This little fatty has nothing to do with me. I want to help you because I have a leopard at home too. No, I have a lot of leopards, and each of them is very helpful, so I'm helpful. I'm very helpful. I have a few other tribesmen too, and they're all very helpful. But can you really heal my wounds?" The leopard still sounded suspicious. He did not want to let go of his only chance, but he did not trust humans. He was afraid that this human would push him over the edge. Enriching did not answer the leopard. Before everyone's eyes, she took out some pots and pans. Under everyone's scrutiny, she took out a stick to start a fire. Lianqing stared at Enriching with his mouth gaping, unable to understand what she was doing. Time trickled away, and the sun set below the mountains. The sunset glow covered the skies as night began within the Spirit Beast Mountain. Soon, a strong fragrance wafted from the pot, making the leopard spit out the boy in his mouth to swallow his saliva. He stared fixedly at the pot in front of Enriching. Chapter 1476, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 4. It was worth mentioning that spirit beasts do not have very high intelligence. With just the fragrance of food, it was enough to bewitch them to the point of forgetting their initial goals. When the little fatty was spat onto the ground, the snot on his face had dried. Perhaps it was because he had maintained a fixed position inside the leopard's mouth for a long time. He could not move right now. Miss Feng. Feng Lianqing looked eagerly at the pot in front of Feng Ruqing, swallowing hard with the anticipation clear in his eyes. If you want to eat this, I can have Nan Xian beat you up so that you're hurt all over, and then, you may eat. Feng Lianqing was speechless. The corners of his lips twitched. Forget it then. As he had said that, Feng Lianqing would still glance at Feng Ruqing's pot from time to time with desire in his eyes. Feng Ruqing ignored him and took out the soup in the pot before bringing it to the leopard. The leopard looked hesitant. But alas, he could not resist the temptation of good food, so he took one lap. The flavor instantly made his eyes sparkle. He immediately picked up the bowl with his mouth and drank its content without leaving a single drop. He looked unsatisfied as he licked the corners of his lips, staring eagerly at Feng Ruqing. How do you feel? Feng Ruqing smiled faintly at the leopard. The leopard was befuddled by delicious food earlier, so he only realized after Feng Ruqing had spoken. The stinging pain in his chest was getting better, and it was not as agonizing as before. This surprised him as delight appeared in his eyes. His gaze on Feng Ruqing now looked a little more different. Although there was still caution, the initial hostility was gone. Some of my tribesmen, too, are hurt. The leopard paused before asking, can you help me save them? Feng Ruqing squinted at him. How do they fare on labor? They're great. Really great. The leopard was terrified that Feng Ruqing would reject him, so he quickly answered. Okay. That will do. Lead the way. All right. The leopard let out a quiet sigh of relief. If his tribesmen could recover, they would not have to live their days in hiding. The little fatty could finally get up. He stumbled as he crawled over to Feng Ruqing, crying and sniffling as he said, Goddess sister, from today on, you're my greatest savior. I will be your slave and servant to repay you. As he spoke, he wanted to rub his snot onto Feng Ruqing's robes. Feng Ruqing lifted a leg to kick him away. Wash your face before you come over, me for extra chapters. Okay. The little prince no longer displayed his initial arrogance. He now looked extremely obedient. Feng Lianqing had never seen the little prince this obedient. The brat was now like a puppy, standing obediently in front of Feng Ruqing. If the boy had a tail, Feng Lianqing could probably see him wag his tail as he begged for attention. Nan Xian lowered his head to look at the little prince. Male. Child. There was no threat to him. Master. Xiao Qing looked up at Nan Xian and urged softly, have you forgotten about Jiuming? Ever since his master had stopped being wary about the men that appeared around the princess, it gave way to a case like Jiuming. It's not the same. Yes. It was indeed not the same. This was a child, so he did not have to be cautious. Moreover, he was ugly. What about the leopard? Xiao Qing added. Chapter 1477, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City v. Male. Beast. Servant. Even less threatening. Qing'er would never accept beasts, especially a male beast. Xiao Qing was speechless. For some reason, he thought of the black dragon. Does master really need not be wary of spirit beasts? That black dragon seemed a little different. But when he saw Nan Xian's calm expression, Xiao Qing decided not to tell him. Forget it, forget it. That black dragon has disappeared and probably won't ever reappear again. Master really doesn't need to be wary of a missing dragon. Moreover, the princess has married master, so she won't be flirting around. It's only those shameless women who would throw themselves at the princess. For example, that person named Tang Yin and that Gui. Xiao Qing snorted. Thankfully his master was charming. Otherwise, the princess would have run off with someone else. Feng Ruqing did not hear their conversation. She was following the leopard as they walked into the night. Nan Xian regained his senses and walked over to her. He appeared beside Feng Ruqing in the blink of an eye and lifted an arm to pull the girl into his embrace. Let's go. As he walked behind the couple, Feng Lianqing felt like this public display of affection had just blinded him. He felt a little uneasy. He had never considered a relationship between man and woman, but after seeing this lovey-dovey scene, he suddenly had an urge to start a family too. At Wushang City. Under the osmanthus tree, Tianya was standing with his hands behind him. He was still dressed in bold red with his eyes dark. General. The old housekeeper walked up quietly behind Tianya. I've taken care of Jia Axin. Okay. Tianya smirked. This is considered being lenient to him. If he didn't need to report to Tsangyu mainland in person, I would have never let him leave alive. Ha! To bully his family. Did the man really think that he, Feng Wuhui, was someone who would not protect the weak? One more thing, the old housekeeper paused before continuing. Jia Axan said that he could return only because a black dragon had torn the sky open and dragged him in. Tianya narrowed his aged eyes. And then? I thought if that black dragon can easily drag Jia Axan back, could it also bring the people over here to Tsangyu mainland? Tianya was baffled. What was this old man trying to say? Did he think that Tianya did not know that as well? Me for extra chapters. The old housekeeper continued respectfully, just earlier, I've heard that a black dragon was heading toward the Spirit Beast Mountain. I wonder if it's the same one that Jia Axan spoke of. Tian Yi's aura immediately became imposing. He grabbed the old housekeeper by his collar. Why didn't you say so earlier? I've also just heard and come here immediately to report to you, General. Tianya raised his arm and pushed the old housekeeper to the ground. In making a trip to the Spirit Beast Mountain. When Lianqing comes back, have him take care of General Manor. Understood, General. After the old housekeeper had spoken, Tianyi flipped his sleeve before walking smartly out of General Manor. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared into the dark of the night. At the Spirit Beast Mountain, within a dark cave, a few leopards were curled up together. They were hiding in the dark, not daring to make any movements. Just then, footsteps could be heard around the entrance. The leopards lifted their heads to look over at the entrance. In an instant, a familiar silhouette appeared in their eyes, filling them with joy. However, when they saw the few humans following behind that silhouette, they were startled as fury sparked in their gaze. Chapter 1478, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 6, Ah Hua, how could you partner up with humans too? Ah Hua. The corners of Feng Lianqing's mouth twitched. Is the naming standard of spirit beasts that low? A male leopard with the name Ah Hua. Pfft. Doesn't he feel embarrassed? Xiao Qing subconsciously looked up at Feng Ruqing. Yeah, the naming standards of these spirit beasts were on par with the princess. So, your name is Ah Hua. Feng Ruqing was smiling brightly. This name sounds good. It's simple and nice. Feng Lianqing was baffled. Just which part of it is nice? Stand there. Seeing Feng Ruqing and her group getting closer, the leopard in front immediately flared up in anger. He stood up and roared, if you guys come any closer, don't blame us for not showing you mercy. Ah Hua, you've disappointed us. We never thought you would side with humans. Ah Hua, is this how you honor our fallen tribesmen? What benefit did this human give you that made you lead her here? Upon hearing his comrade's words, Ah Hua fell into deep thought. Was the spirit herb dish that healed his injuries considered a benefit? It seems that your comrades don't welcome us. Nan Xian, let's go. Feng Ruqing shrugged and turned to leave. Ah Hua instantly became anxious. He quickly pounced over to block Feng Ruqing's way. Didn't we already agree? They're a hard-working bunch. Really? You can't just leave like that. Ah Hua. That leopard got angrier. Did you sell us off to humans as servants? Ah Hua, you're too much. You would stop at nothing to sell us off. A leopard like you isn't fit to be our comrade. Ah Hua had no mind to pay his comrades. There was worry in his eyes as he explained nervously, my tribesmen actually have an excellent temper. They're also very good at labor with boundless strength. They can do anything. Didn't we already agree? You can't just leave like that. The leopards were going mad with fury. Their gaze on Ah Hua became even more disappointed. Feng Ruqing shrugged. They don't need me for extra chapters. No, I can accept on their behalf. Ah Hua did not care anymore. As long as you agree, I'm willing to accept your request on their behalf. Feng Ruqing saw the leopard's eyes turning red from anxiousness. She reached out a hand to pat his head before taking out a huge pot from the medium. This pot still had the spirit herb soup she had made earlier. It was still a little warm. Well, wait for you at the cave's entrance. Bring them out to see me later. I still have some things I'd like to ask you. Ah Hua's eyes sparkled. All right. Thank you. You're a wonderful person. The best I've ever met. He had forgotten how he had treated Feng Ruqing initially. His eyes were now filled with the spirit herb soup in front of him as his saliva almost fell. Fortunately, Ah Hua had great control of himself. He knew that he should let his heavily injured comrades consume it first. And so, he resisted his inner desires but continued to stare longingly at the pot. Feng Ruqing did not say anything else. She went outside the cave. The night in the Spirit Beast Mountain was quiet. However, who knew how much danger lurked in this silence? She squatted down in front of a tree and looked up at the moon. The night was bewitching. Moonlight fell onto her beautiful face. Nan Xian. Did you realize that on our way here, we didn't meet many strong spirit beasts? Chapter 1479, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 7, yeah, that's true. Nan Xian stood beside the girl. His gaze on her was warm, with a hint of gentleness. Well, leave the Spirit Beast Mountain tomorrow. A glint flashed through Feng Ruqing's eyes. I have to find Xiaoye no matter how and what it takes. Xiao Qing spoke feebly, Princess, did you notice that the girl I've bidden looks a bit like Tang Yin? Her shamelessness was a little like Tang Yin's too. Feng Ruqing raised her eyebrows. Did you notice as well? Not only their appearance but even their scents are also alike. We spirit beasts are very sensitive to this. She might have some relation with Tang Ying. There was suspicion in Xiao Qing's eyes. But why would Tang Yin be related to anyone from Land of No Return? Isn't she from Cangyu mainland? Moreover, Tang Yin was a beast man while Liani was fully human. Feng Ruqing patted Xiao Qing's head. Your senses aren't bad. My instincts are telling me the same. So, when the time comes, I have to ask about Liania's background thoroughly. Just as Feng Ruqing was about to speak again, she saw Feng Lianqing leading the little prince over. The little prince was cringing slightly. It was not until they left the cave entrance that he finally let out a sigh of relief. He was afraid that the spirit beasts would pounce at him and swallow him alive just now. Compared to Feng-Ruching and Nan Xian, those spirit beasts were way scarier. At least these two people would not swallow him alive. Feng-Lianqing. Feng-Ruching stood up. Do you remember what you have promised me today? Feng-Lianqing was stunned. After some thought, he understood what Feng-Ruching was referring to. You mean Lianyi? Yeah. Feng-Ruching's lips curved slightly. How much do you know about her? Feng-Lianqing glanced sympathetically at Nan Xian before quickly retracting his gaze and saying in all seriousness, Lianyi isn't a good woman. There was silence. She likes to eat garlic, is always picking the bottom of her feet, and has an athlete's foot. She would even fart while she ate. Oh, she doesn't like children. You're pregnant, so shall bully your child, me for extra chapters. There was still silence. So, a married woman like you shouldn't be interested in her. Feng-Ruching was stunned. What did her being married have anything to do with her interest in Lianyi? I just want to know about Lianyi's background. Her background? I'm not too sure. Just think of her as an orphan. There's no need for you to meet her parents anyway. You're a married woman. Please restrain yourself. Feng-Ruching was a little confused. She just wanted to inquire about some information about Lianyi. What did that have anything to do with her being a married woman? Feng-Lianqing. She gritted her teeth. Feng-Lianqing looked troubled. I really don't know. She met my master before me. Back when I started following my master, she was already in general manner. I can be considered her childhood friend, but we didn't come from the same place. I wouldn't know even if you asked me. Oh. Feng-Ruching pouted. She had saved this man for nothing. How dull. Nan Xian, let's take the leopards with us later. Upon hearing that Feng-Ruching was about to leave, the little prince cried as he pounced over and hugged her leg. Goddess sister, don't leave me behind. Bring me along. Feng-Lianqing is too weak. If I follow him, my life will be in danger. Those spirit beasts keep eyeing my fats. Feng-Ruching lifted her leg to kick the little prince away. Get lost, male being. Chapter 1480, leading the spirit beasts to attack the city 8. The little prince rolled over and got back up, crying and running to Feng-Ruching. I can be a girl. Please don't leave me with Feng-Lianqing. He's too stupid. I don't want to follow him. This fool could not even look after a child. It would definitely be dangerous to follow him. Feng-Lianqing's face darkened as he stepped forward. Your Highness, I can protect you. The little prince turned to Feng-Lianqing and looked back at Feng-Ruching, crying so hard. I don't want to follow him. He can't look after me. If I'm taken away by the spirit beast again, he can't save me. Pretty sister, I'm good and obedient, and I won't curse anymore. Can you take me with you? Your Highness, Feng-Lianqing turned to Feng-Ruching, genuinely embarrassed. Maiden Feng, I'm really sorry. The little prince take him away. Feng-Ruching shrugged and said unconcernedly, Nan Xian and I still have other matters to settle. I won't go with you now. After hearing Feng-Ruching's words, Feng-Lianqing's heart was somewhat disappointed, but he did not say anything in the end. The little prince was anxious and threw himself at Feng-Ruching again. His dirty little face filled with tears. You can't leave me. You can't leave me to that fool Feng-Lianqing. He can't protect me. Feng-Ruching glanced at him coldly, scaring the little prince into silence. He looked at her with pitiful eyes. You follow him. All right, the little prince responded obediently, not daring to oppose her. Good. You take him away, and I'll come to you later when I get the chance. Feng Ruqing smiled and patted Feng Liangqing's shoulder. And when her hand landed on his shoulder, Feng Liangqing felt a cold gaze land on his shoulder, and he trembled in fright. It's not my fault. It's Feng Ruqing who touched me first. I'm innocent. Fortunately, Feng Ruqing quickly retracted her hand, and that cold gaze gradually disappeared. Me for extra chapters. Feng Liangqing heaved a huge sigh of relief. He felt like a weight was lifted off his shoulders. Let's go. Feng Liangqing turned his head, looking at the little prince whose face was filled with tears. The little prince looked at Feng Liangqing and then turned to Feng Ruqing. His footsteps were still a little hesitant. He had always felt that he would definitely lose his life if he followed Feng Liangqing. Perhaps he might not even have the chance to leave the Spirit Beast mountain range. However, the little prince also understood that Feng Ruqing would not take him with her, and if he did not follow Feng Liangqing, he might be killed by the wolves in the mountain range. Therefore, after thinking about it, he still walked up to Feng Liangqing's side, without uttering a word. He looked somewhat aggrieved, no longer arrogant and overbearing. Feng Liangqing eventually walked away with a group of people. Only Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian were left on the entire mountain range. The wind was cold. The night in the Spirit Beast mountain range was quiet and somewhat bizarre. Feng Ruqing sensed a movement coming from the cave. She looked sideways and saw a group of leopards coming out of the cave. These leopards no longer looked at her with the initial hatred, and even if they were still wary, it was just that they did not dare to trust the good intentions of the humans fully. So? Feng Ruqing raised her eyebrows. Do you want to follow me now, or are you going to stay in the Spirit Beast mountain and come to me later? Chapter 1481, Leading the Spirit Beasts to attack the City 9. After all, it was not convenient to bring such a group of Spirit Beasts with her. When she had settled down first, she would then let these Spirit Beasts come to her. Thank you. The leopard that was scolding Ah Hua just now was deep in thought before thanking him earnestly. You're working for me, and I'll pay you for it. I don't need some handicap to work for me, Feng Ruqing frowned. Moreover, what has happened in this Spirit Beast mountain? Ah Hua paused for a moment. There is a family in the mainland that has been contracting the Spirit Beasts for generations, and the Spirit Beasts of the Spirit Beast mountain have always obeyed those people as well. Back then, because of the help of Spirit Beasts, that family occupied an extremely important position in the mainland, and no one in the world dared to call them out. Later, the head of that family became seriously ill. Seriously ill? Feng Ruqing was startled. Yes, I've heard that they are all paralyzed to this day, unable to speak or move their hands. His adopted son took over as head of the family. Ah Hua sounded serious. Adopted son. Why is an adopted son handling the family? He has no biological sons or daughters? No, he had a daughter once, but she went missing when she was a child, and he had a hard time finding her. I heard that the daughter he had found was stubborn, uneducated, unruly, and had paralyzed him. Initially, he wanted his daughter to marry his adopted son, but because his daughter was such a disappointment, he was embarrassed to have his adopted son marry her. Therefore, he had planned to hand over the family to him. These things were no secrets in Land of No Return. But because more than 20 years had passed, only a few people left who knew about this. He made this decision before he was paralyzed, and I heard from someone that his daughter ran away because of a big fight with him after she knew about his decision. Somehow, Feng Ruqing suddenly felt bad after hearing these words from Ah Hua. This feeling came out of nowhere, and even she was not sure why she felt that way. It always felt like there was inexplicable anger that she wanted to vent. After that, his adopted son inherited his imperial beast abilities and even ruled the entire spirit beast mountain, and from then on, it was a nightmare. Ah, Hua laughed bitterly. Me for extra chapters. The spirit beasts revered freedom. Even if they were willing to obey that family, it did not mean that they were willing to lose their freedom. It was because they were unwilling to do so, that had ushered in a nightmare that they would never forget. How is that adopted son like now? A cold light flashed in Feng Rooking's eyes. He's too overbearing. He wants to be the king of spirit beasts, but we've never been willing to submit to someone like a slave for so many years. So, he's tricked the strongest of those spirit beasts in some unknown way, and we, the beasts who are not strong and unwilling to obey, will be killed. If one lost his freedom, what was the difference between him and a puppet? His ambition was too strong, so strong that it was frightening. Feng Ruqing pursed her lips and remained silent. Only after a moment did she ask, "That adopted son, is he now married?" "Yes, he married his childhood friend, and I guess the kids are already grown up." Feng Rooking's eyes grew heavy as she asked again, the last question, "What's the last name of that family?" Chapter 1482, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. Ahua looked at Feng Ruqing and said honestly, "Nan." "Nan." Feng Rooking's suspicions were now confirmed. Her eyes were filled with rage. The Nan family. Nan Si. No wonder Si did not allow her to have any contact with spirit beasts. So the family she was in had such a relationship with the spirit beasts. If I'm not mistaken, Si is the daughter of the old master of the Nan family who went missing before. But Si's personality. Is she an arrogant and domineering woman? Would she have paralyzed her old father with anger for the slightest bit of power? Si had always been unconcerned about any fame or fortune. But in Land of No Return, she was known for such a reputation. Feng Ruqing slowly closed her eyes, her angry fists trembling. Only after a long time did she open her eyes and looked at Nan Xian. "State Preceptor, I understand." Nan Xian's handsome face remained calm, yet his eyes permeated coldness. "I won't let anyone bully her. The Nan family. He did not care about them. But those people. None of them could bully his mother." Feng Ruqing held the anger in her heart as she turned to Hua and the other leopards. "I have to go to Wushang City first. It's too inconvenient to bring all of you with me, and it's also easy to attract attention. You guys should wait for me here, and once I've settled down, I'll let you come to me." Hua was a little hesitant, but it finally nodded. "All right," Feng Ruqing continued, "you don't have to worry. I will leave enough food for all of you, so you don't have to hunt anymore. And I will set up a formation here, so no one will be able to find you." Only after hearing this did the stone in Hua's heart gradually fall. No wonder they were so cowardly. He had had enough running away, and he no longer wanted to be on edge every day. "State Preceptor, it's getting late. Well, stay here for one night, and we'll return tomorrow after I set up the formation for them." Nan Xian raised his head and touched Feng Rooking's head. "All right, I'll listen to you, me for extra chapters." It was indeed getting late. However, if Feng Lianqing did not leave immediately, these leopards would be more ferocious and take the little prince away again. Feng Manor, Wushang City. Under the morning light, a panicked figure ran in from outside the manor, her strong brows filled with anxiety and panic. "General. Something bad has happened." Her voice disrupted the quiet general manner. The old housekeeper, still looking sleepy, came out from the courtyard with a yawn, and his heart thudded when he saw the panicking figure. "Maiden Liani, why have you come back alone? Where's Master Lianqing? Why didn't he come back with you?" Some guards followed Liani. The old housekeeper panicked as he could not see Feng Lianking's figure among them. Liani was so anxious that she was about to cry. The little prince has been taken away by a leopard, and brother Feng went after him. What? The old housekeeper's legs were a little weak and trembling as he looked at Liani. What did you just say? A leopard took the little prince. Old housekeeper, where is the general? Quick! Let the general go and rescue them, and it might not be too late. The anxiety on Liani's face was not fake. It scared the old housekeeper. His old face turned pale. Chapter 1483, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 11. The old housekeeper trembled as he said, General had already left a few days ago. Liani froze, her eyes visibly flashing with panic. Then, you wait here. I'll go report to the Emperor. Imperial Palace. 100 flowers bloomed in the back garden. A beautiful woman in the palace dress walked forward with her servants, trembling, as she saw a yellow-robed man standing quietly in the pavilion. The man was quite handsome, with sharp eyebrows and domineering eyes. However, the man's eyes were filled with anxiety. Your Majesty, the Empress walked over to the man anxiously. Her eyes were filled with tears, and her face was a bit pale. Is something wrong with you? Qi Fang looked at the Empress' face that was already filled with tears and sighed softly, Empress, don't worry, Yue will be fine. Feng Lianqing will bring him back. The Empress ignored the man. She walked in and looked at Liani, kneeling in front of the man, and asked, Maiden Liani, you went to the Spirit Beast Mountain with Feng Lianqing. Why have you come back alone? Where's Yue? Why didn't he come back with you? Qi Yu was useless, but the Empress almost died giving birth to him back then, so she had always loved him a little more. She had not slept well for several days and nights since Qi Yu was missing. Therefore, when she had heard the palace servants say that Liani had gone to the palace to meet the emperor, she immediately rushed back. Liani lowered her head, not daring to look at the Empress' eyes. Such action made the Empress' heart panic even more. I order you to tell me what has happened to Yue. Her voice trembled and was a bit harsh. Liani subconsciously looked at Qi Fang. Qi Fang sighed and gave a slight nod. Liani raised her eyes and looked at the Empress. Empress. Little Prince He was taken away by a leopard. This sentence was like a thunderbolt from the clear sky that made the Empress fall backward. Her eyes were dim, and she could not stand firmly on her feet. Me for extra chapters. She would have fainted if Qi Fang did not hold her in time. Impossible, you're lying to me. Where's Feng Lianqing? Tell him to come back and bring Yue back immediately. The Empress grasped Qi Fang's hand tightly. Qi Fang frowned, but he did not stop her, allowing her to let her emotions out. Tell Feng Lianqing to bring him back quickly. Bring back my son. The Empress' voice was hysterical. Her eyes reddened, and tears were rolling down from her beautiful eyes. Her body in Qi Fang's arms was trembling a little. Qi Fang turned back to Liani. General Tianya is such a powerful man, but why are you two so bad at doing things? Liani's face was pale. Your Majesty, this has nothing to do with me or Big Brother Feng. Initially, the little prince was in danger. Big Brother Feng and I found him in time and saved him from a red tiger. Qi Fang's eyes were cold and stern. Then, why did he re-encounter danger? Liani lowered her head, her voice trembling. We met someone not so nice. Met someone not so nice. Qi Fang's face sank. What do you mean? At first, Brother Feng and I found a lost woman. Seeing that she was pregnant and pitiful, we felt sympathy for her, so we brought her along with us, but, Liani raised her head, her face was grave with pain. Little Prince thought she was a servant in the general's house, so he had asked her to take off her clothes to wipe his face. Chapter 1484, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. 12 Chi Fong frowned. Yuer is indeed spoiled, but how did Yuer get dragged away by the leopard? Continue. Chi Fang's eyes sunk slightly as he sternly shouted. Lianya's eyes were filled with anger and hatred. But she held a grudge and took advantage of Brother Feng's inattention to hit the little prince from the guard's back, causing the little prince to land right in front of the leopard. The leopard's speed was too fast. Before we could make any move, it had already snatched the little prince with its mouth and took him away. Your Majesty, this matter has nothing to do with Big Brother Feng. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have pitied her. I beg your Majesty and the Empress for the General's sake don't blame Big Brother Feng. Lianya's voice cracked. She was indeed sincere to Feng Lianqing. They had been friends since childhood, and in her eyes, he was like her older brother. She did not want anything to happen to him, so she could only put all the blame on Feng Ruqing. Your Majesty. The Empress grasped Chi Fang's hand tighter as she cried, I will make the person who harmed Yuer pay for it. Chi Fang was considered much calmer than the Empress, and even though he had anger in his heart, he held it back. Lianyi, is it true? Lianyi nodded. The guards of the general manor can attest to this incident that it was all done on purpose. She held a grudge and wanted to kill the little prince. Besides, the general taught me not to lie since I was a child. The general raised me. How could I do something to frame others? If it was only Lianyi who said these things, Chi Fang might have remained hesitant. But Lianyi was a member of the general manor. He trusted Tianya. Because of Tianya, he chose to trust Lianyi. Describe those people's faces to me, and I'll ask the guards to search for them. No one can harm my prince. A murderous intent flashed in Chi Fang's eyes, making him look even more domineering. The Empress could no longer bear the blow of the bad news and fainted in Chi Fang's arms in tears. Chi Fang could not care about anything else and hurriedly picked up the Empress and headed toward the harem. When all of them had disappeared, Lianyi slowly stood up from the ground, gazing in the direction where they had left. A dark light flashed in her eyes. Me for extra chapters. Feng Ruqing, don't blame me. If it weren't for you, Big Brother Feng wouldn't have beaten that guard, and the little prince wouldn't have been taken away by a leopard. It's all your fault, besides. I need to sacrifice someone to save Big Brother Feng. Fortunately, she had just specifically mentioned the general's name so that the emperor would no longer be suspicious of her. Otherwise, she would not be able to make the emperor trust her easily. She took one last look in the direction in which the emperor and the empress had disappeared and turned around to leave the palace. The Spirit Beast Mountain. The morning light covered the entire mountain range, casting dappled light on their bodies through the leaves. Feng Ruqing stopped in her tracks. In front of her, a group of spirit beasts swarmed and surrounded her and Nan Xian. These spirit beasts were different from the leopards. The leopard clan was still sane, but these spirit beasts seemed to have lost all their mind, leaving only a monstrous killing intent. State Preceptor, Feng Ruqing frowned. Nan Xian lifted his hand and pulled Feng Ruqing behind him. His cold gaze fell on the group of spirit beasts. They should be under control. Chapter 1485, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. 13 Feng Ruqing's heart sank. It seemed like it was a little hard to deal with them. Especially since she was pregnant, it was not easy to fight. Feng Ruqing had mixed feelings as she looked at Nan Xian, who was protecting her. I didn't expect that one day I'll have to rely on a man for protection. I hate this feeling. It's all this little thing in my Bella's fault. It would be fine if the baby were a daughter, but if it was a son, she would not let him go easily. Stay behind me and don't do anything. I'll take care of it. Nan Xian's eyes flashed coldly, and his figure moved like the wind, appearing over the group of spirit beasts in a split second. This was a group of wind wolves. They looked even uglier than the snow wolves. Feng Ruqing smirked. She did not have any interest in taking them in. Furthermore, this group of spirit beasts was clearly under control, and it was not easy for her to take them in. When the sword in Nan Xian's hand swung, a wind wolf had a blood mark on its back, but it seemed not to feel it much as it howled and pounced on Nan Xian again. Feng Ruqing frowned after she heard the wolf's cry. It was because she sensed that countless more spirit beasts were coming to them. Fu Chen and Qing Han stood in front of Feng Ruqing, gazing at the spirit beasts that came flying from not far away. "Mother, is there a big feast today?" Qing Han gulped, looking hungrily and greedily at the group of spirit beasts that had suddenly attacked. "Don't think about food all day long, go help Nan Xian." Feng Ruqing patted Qing Han's small head. "Oh, Qing Han is weaker, so just stay with me." "Fu Chen, you go help him." Qing Han was speechless. She pouted and said, "Mother, I'm not weak. I'm super fierce and can bite people. I'm afraid they'll be too hard and would just knock your teeth out." Feng Ruqing sighed. "Me for extra chapters." Qing Han stopped talking and stood next to Feng Ruqing, but her heart was gradually filled with determination. "One day, I will surpass Brother Fu Chen and become more powerful. So powerful that no one will dare to be friends with me. Then, no one will dare to bully Mother and Brother Fu Chen anymore." Boom! Suddenly, a powerful force came from mid-air and landed violently on a wind wolf's body. The wind wolf screamed in pain before it fell into a pool of blood, losing its life. Feng Ruqing was startled. She slowly raised her eyes and saw a figure in a blood-red robe. The old man had one hand on his back. His robe was as red as blood, domineering like the king of this world. His gaze was cold and arrogant as he looked down at the group of spirit beasts below him. "Even though the spirit beast mountain is your territory, I won't let any spirit beasts kill the innocents in front of my eyes. Get out of here. Go back and tell your masters that no one can touch the innocents." Howl! Under this powerful energy, the spirit beasts somewhat trembled, and even the group of spirit beasts that had rushed to them just now disappeared without a trace. Even if the spirit beasts had lost their senses, it did not mean that they could not feel the danger. Their powerful survival instincts would make them leave. "Young man, young lady, and you two children," in mid-air, the old man narrowed his eyes. "What are you doing so deep in the spirit beast mountain? Don't you know it's dangerous here? Where are your elders? Go back and stop hanging around here." Feng Ruqing remained silent and turned to Nan Xian. Chapter 1486, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 14. This seemed to be the first time that the State Preceptor had been reprimanded. But the State Preceptor's face was expressionless, still as calm as always. It was as if no words could move his heart. Suddenly, the old man caught a whiff of something and descended from the air before sniffing hard at Feng Ruqing. "What's that smell? It smells so good." Nan Xian's eyes were cold as he lifted his hand and pulled Feng Ruqing into his arms, his sleeves drawing a burst of cold wind at the old man. The old man raised his hand, diffusing the sudden cold wind, and smiled. "Young man, calm down. The smell of spirit herbs on this girl is very strong. I'm sure she often brings the spirit herbs with her." Feng Ruqing frowned. This old man has a keen sense of smell. "Yes." The old man laughed. "However, your smell is slightly different from the ordinary spirit herbs. It seems to be mixed with something else." It smells so good, and I'm drooling. Feng Ruqing subconsciously pulled Nan Xian back to keep a distance from this old man. Little Qing Han blinked and said, "Can grandfather smell mother's herbal dish?" Those little leopards were injured, and mother wanted to have them as her slaves, so she has made a herbal dish for them. Qing Han. Feng Ruqing face-bombed. Qing Han had just met this old man, not even knowing his identity, but she had already revealed her secret. "And what did you mean by wanting to make a spirit beast a slave? Am I that kind of person?" The old man's eyes lit up. He had even forgotten the purpose of his visit to the Spirit Beast Mountain. He blinked as he looked at Feng Ruqing. "Little girl, what is the herbal dish your child is talking about? Is it delicious? Me for extra chapters." Little Qing Han nodded hurriedly. "Of course, it's delicious. Mother also has spirit wine, and my grandfather really." This time, Qing Han had not even finished speaking, but Feng Ruqing had quickly walked in front of her and clamped her mouth shut. Qing Han whimpered, looking pitifully at Feng Ruqing, clearly not understanding what she had done wrong. "Wine." The old man's eyes grew brighter. "Little girl, do you have any wine now?" "So, is your wine up for sale? I'm a person who doesn't usually have any other hobbies. I just love to drink, and am even more fond of collecting wine from around the world." Feng Ruqing released the hand that covered Qing Han's mouth and gave the old man in front of her a once-over. "Do you have something to exchange with me?" "Hee hee," the old man laughed. "If you want to exchange things with me, then first give me a taste of your wine, and I'll see what it's worth before I can take out an item of equivalent value." Feng Ruqing smiled faintly. "There is nothing of equivalent value to my wine, but for the sake of your kindness in helping us just now, I can give you a taste of it before you make your decision." Feng Ruqing took out the spirit wine from the medium. Ever since her strength had increased, the ingredients used to brew the spirit wine were no longer the lowest grade herbs. That was why, when the spirit wine had just appeared, before the wine jar was even opened, the old man had already smelled the alluring fragrance. The smell made him salivate as he looked unblinkingly at the wine jar Feng Ruqing was holding. "It smells so good." Chapter 1487, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City 15. The smell alone was enough to make him drool. Feng Ruqing took a wine bowl out, carefully poured a bowl of wine, and handed it to the old man. The old man unceremoniously accepted the bowl of wine and downed it in one gulp. The fragrant wine filled his throat and made him feel so good. Good wine, good wine. The wine was good to the last drop. "Little girl, what kind of price do you want for this wine? Let's see what price you can afford to pay." The old man hesitated for a moment. He pulled out something from his pouch and handed it to Feng Ruqing. "I see that you already have a baby in your womb, this necklace. I got it by luck, so I'll give it to your baby. Give it to her after she's born. It'll help her gather spiritual qi and get twice the result with half the effort in her cultivation." Feng Ruqing frowned and looked at the necklace handed over by the old man. This necklace had a piece of blood-colored jade hanging from it, and it looked very translucent. This must be carried from a young age for 3 years to be enough for the jade stone to recognize its owner. "Initially, I wanted to leave it to my granddaughter, but I left too suddenly back then and forgot to give it to my son before he got married," the old man sighed. "But this jade must be carried since childhood to be effective. My granddaughter is grown up now, so it is useless to her. Little girl, fate has brought us together today, and I like you. I will give this necklace to the baby in your womb." Feng Ruqing held the jade stone. "You can still leave it to your granddaughter. After all, she will also have her children too." The old man shook his head and smiled bitterly. "I'm willing to do my best to go back to them, but if I can't go back, wouldn't it be a waste of such a good thing? Little girl, I'm a person who is naturally fond of wine and your wine. is worth the price. Feng Ruqing looked at the old man who was so persistent, and so she received the necklace and put it into the medium. Good. The old man laughed. However, this necklace can only be passed on to a girl. I didn't want to give it to that brat in my house back then, and if you give birth to a son, bring it back and return it to me. I live in Wushang City, me for extra chapters. Oh, Feng Ruqing looked calm. It's alright, if this baby is a son, maybe the next one will be a daughter. I can still have a daughter. After all, you can't take this necklace back once you've given it to me. She had already refused earlier anyway, and since he had insisted on giving it to her, he could not reclaim it. The old man was silent for a moment and asked, what if? It's all sons. At this moment, Feng Ruqing's expression darkened, and anger washed over her. Are you cursing me? If it were not for the fact that Nan Xian was holding her hand, Feng Ruqing would have rushed forward and beaten up the old man. The old man laughed. Just kidding, I'm just joking, don't be angry. Meeting you is fate. I also quite like you. If you don't mind, you can be my disciple or granddaughter. Feng Ruqing sneered. And give you a chance to curse me every day. The old man was speechless. In Wushang City, so many people wanted to be his disciples, yet this girl refused to do so. He was so angry. This was so embarrassing. But somehow, looking at Feng Ruqing's face, the old man could not seem to express his anger and could only smile at her. Chapter 1488, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. 16 Girl, I'll take your good wine with me. Remember to look for me in Wushang City in the future. Everyone in Wushang City knows my name. You can find me by asking around. Feng Ruqing snarled, just go. The old man had cursed her only ever to have sons. And he still wanted her to go to him. He. Dream on. The old man picked up the wine jar and turned to walk deeper into the Spirit Beast Mountain. He walked for a moment and suddenly stopped. Wait. Did I tell that girl my name? The old man slapped his head hard. He had forgotten to tell his name to that girl. How was she supposed to find him? Oh, right. What was I doing in the Spirit Beast Mountain before? It seems like I was looking for something. But what exactly was I looking for? The old man's face darkened. He slapped his head hard but still could not remember what exactly he was doing here. Not far away, Feng Ruqing had been dragged away by Nan Xian. Fu Chen and Qing Han were standing by her side, afraid that they would accidentally offend Feng Ruqing. Actually, Nan Xian paused and looked at the young girl next to him. I think having a son is not too bad. Feng Ruqing's face darkened. Don't you like a daughter? I like both, but I think a son is also fine. Nan Xian's tone was gentle but serious. At least, a son would not make him feel jealous. If it was a daughter, perhaps he would no longer have a place in Qing'er's heart. The state preceptor likes a son. Feng Ruqing looked suspiciously at Nan Xian. Nan Xian pursed his lips. I like both. Oh, then for the state preceptor, if we have a son in the future, I'll beat him up less. I will not beat him up too much, me for extra chapters. Nan Xian lowered his eyes and looked at the young girl's face gently. Qing'er, whether it's a boy or a girl, as long as it's yours, I like all of them because your blood runs through them. The son will look like me, and the daughter will look like you. Fu Chen, on the side, agreed with a nod. That's right. Mother, if the younger brother looks like father, do you still have the heart to beat him? Feng Ruqing raised her head and looked at Nan Xian's face for a moment before she shook her head. I will not beat him if he looks like you, but I will do it if it doesn't look like you. Everyone was speechless. Fu Chen paused and looked sympathetically at Feng Rooking's belly. You will be born sooner or later, and if you're a girl, it's fine, but if you're a boy, you will definitely have to look like Nan Xian, otherwise. I'm afraid it will end badly. It is a little sister. Little Qing Han raised her hand and hugged Feng Ruqing. Her small face was filled with a bright smile. It must be a little sister. It's not a brother. Feng Rooking's face suddenly brightened up as she hugged little Qing Han and kissed her. Little Qing Han is so sweet, unlike that old man just now who has cursed me. Little Qing Han giggled. Her laughter was as clear as a bell, and she was so adorable. Nan Xian frowned. She's too heavy. You shouldn't hug her. It will make you feel tired. Qing Han was first stunned, and her eyes began to water. Mother, father is so bad. He said I'm heavy, but I've been eating lesser lately. I'm not heavy at all. But as soon as she finished speaking, Feng Ruqing had already placed little Qing Han on the ground. She rolled her wrist a little and smiled. You are indeed a little heavy. The state preceptor is right, Qing Han, you should lose some weight. You can't eat anymore. Chapter 1489, Leading the Spirit Beasts to Attack the City. 17. Qing Han was stunned. Mother, you've changed. You're no longer the person I used to know. Qinger, it's getting late, let's go. Nan Xian calmly turned around. His white robe was as cold as the moon, and a ray of light fell upon his handsome face. Wushang City. The entire Wushang City was in chaos since the little prince was taken away by a leopard. The empress was heartbroken and had fallen ill, even the emperor had aged a lot in a short time. He no longer went to the court, accompanying the empress all day, causing all the concubines to feel jealous of her. Qi Fang rubbed his forehead to relieve the headache that was coming on. He looked at the guards kneeling in front of him and asked sternly, Is there still no whereabouts of Yuer? The guards knelt in a row, trembling. Your Majesty, we still haven't found the little prince, and even Master Qing has not returned. Qi Fang's eyes turned cold. Where is the woman who harmed the little prince? My subordinates have already sent people to wait at the foot of the mountain. As soon as she descends from the mountain, she will certainly be dealt with on the spot. Good, Qi Fang's gaze looked serious. I won't let go of anyone who has harmed my son. Lian Yi and Lian Qing are also at fault. When the general returns, tell him to punish them. In the entire Wushang City, only General Tianya had the emperor's respect. The emperor would not even touch the general's people, simply leaving them to Tianya to settle. Ahem. The empress had woken up. She opened her eyes and coughed gently, trying to get up from the bed. Qi Fang hurriedly helped the empress up. Empress, your body is still weak. You have to rest more, me for extra chapters. Your Majesty, the empress gripped Qi Fang's hand tightly. Her face was pale, and her eyes were filled with grief. Where is Yuer? Is there still no news of Yuer? Qi Fang lowered his eyes and did not answer the empress' questions. Seeing the expression on his face, the empress knew the answer. Your Majesty. You still can't find Yuer. The empress gradually loosened her hand, looking grief-stricken, as if she would not be able to hold on any longer at any moment. Empress, don't worry. I have already sent people to continue the search. Qi Fang hurriedly held the empress' hand. Yuer is my son, how could I not be anxious, too? But it's useless to be anxious now. We must calm down a bit before we can deal with the rest of the matter. The empress sneered as she suddenly raised her hand and pushed Qi Fang away. Your Majesty has more than one son. Of course, you wouldn't be as anxious as me. But I only have a son and a daughter, and they are my life. Your Majesty doesn't think about avenging Yuer in the slightest. So, I will personally avenge him. Qi Fang frowned lightly. Empress. I won't let anyone, which hurts Yue, go, ever. A touch of anger flashed in the Empress' eyes and made her look fierce. Qi Fang knew that she had become like this because she was thinking of her son. He did not allow himself to be upset by her as he just sighed. Empress, I have been accompanying you these past few days and have not even bothered with kingdom affairs, but now there is no way I can keep ignoring it. I need to go to the court today, and I will come back to visit you later. Qi Fang smiled bitterly. Anne. I will not let go of the person who harmed Yue, even if Yue is really gone, I will still get his bones back.